Thank you so much for coming to this playlist. Hey everyone, Saul Matthew of Koos Key. It is great to create this video. What I'm doing is I'm going to be summarizing a little bit of what you may have already seen if you've been a subscriber for a long time. But for all of you who are brand new, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't. This playlist is all about the mind, the cognitive triangle, the stress cycle, how does fear work, just how the mind and the body has evolved over time. And then the more you learn about it, my hope is you'll be able to then use that logic and that information to help you control, activate your intuition, and be able to really turn fear into excitement and start creating kind of a better life. So realistically, what is the mind? The way I look at it is I look at it as three different parts. There's the three parts of the brain, but I almost look at it as the animalistic, the cognitive, or the executive function. Now, each of these are broken up into different parts of the actual brain, which I'll get into, but realistically, the way I look at it is the first part of our brain is the most primitive. It's really based on our survival instincts. That's where a lot of the emotions really come from. Then we have to go into some of the cognitive function. This is where the thinking happens. That's where we're able to perceive information, where we can actually focus on creating strategies, memories. Our long-term, short-term, along with our verbal, comes from that midbrain. And then our highest function really comes from that executive function, and that's where the goal setting, the decision making, the impulse controls, the delayed gratification, that's where the emotional regulation skills come from. Now, why is this all important? Now, what happens is when something on the outside happens, typically we go through a normal stress cycle, or if you're really logical and you're able to think through and see your thoughts, you'll also start going through a cognitive behavioral triangle where something happens, you do something, you realize what happens, you perceive it, and then that situation kind of happens all over again. So it's important to learn how the brain is designed and how it functions, so that way you can kind of break and kind of create some sort of control for yourself. So this playlist is all about understanding that aspect of our minds. How you going? Saul Matthew of Koos Key. May you be blessed with a long life. So today I want to ask you something. Why are you afraid? Think about it. Why are you afraid? What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of this? Again, if you knew why, and then you're like, well, I'm afraid because I was hurt before. Then the next question is, well, why was I hurt before? Well, I was hurt before because I was foolish and I overgave more than my body and mind was able to give. And I had fatigue from not filling up my cup. Okay, well, why did you fill up your cup? Well, I guess I didn't fill up my cup because I thought that other people and their perception of me mattered more than what I thought. Because I had low self-worth, and I put the power of their thoughts and beliefs into my own value. Okay, well, why did you do that? Because at some point, I had a lot of insecurities, and I didn't have people to validate my true self-worth. And in my isolation and what it felt like abandonment and what it felt like me being isolated and alone to deal with so much unresolved pain, I just felt like that I wasn't good enough, and I believed it. Well, why did you believe it when you could have talked to other ones? All of those were things that you put on yourself, okay? And then to that point, that's where I would need to figure out, why did I do that? And ultimately, it stemmed from moving across country, across the world, and also having a lot of other situations that happened in my life. But that took me years and decades to figure out. So for you, let's try that again. Why are you afraid? Based on what you are feeling in that immediate reaction, why did that happen? And then, why did that happen? And then, why did that happen? And then, why did that happen? So typically, you'll start seeing the answer way before you get down to 5 whys. Couple layers down. Now, one thing is, most people don't even want to ask themselves why they feel the way that they feel. They would rather run away from it. So, did you run towards the pain, or did you shut down towards the pain? Now, that's the first feeling that you need to start paying attention to. Were you able to endure, or were you just completely shut down and you couldn't even answer the first question? It's okay. I have a whole nother playlist that talks about checking in and figuring out some of these type of questions. But understanding at first, did you have your aha moment? Did you know? Or did you just not even want to fucking deal with it? And did you shut down? So learning how you react to these situations is important, because as you do any type of inner work and you try to figure out, why am I afraid? Those are the situations that sometimes are going to be the breadcrumbs, like for Hansel and Gretel, that took them back home. But ultimately, you're not always going to be your body's not always going to be screaming, it's this. And sometimes even if it is, it might not be that. So as you go through your healing journey, everything that I have in this content is just supplemental. So go talk to a professional, go talk to people in your life. But what this is a person from the outside who is here to help you normalize your fear, because I felt like I had mentors and people that came later on in my life that validated, that gave me the experience, that showed me what the future could be, and I was able to then own that belief, and I was able to create with self-efficacy and believing and the power of thought and realizing what my true potential was. But for you all, let's figure out, why are you afraid? So this playlist is all about helping you figure out, why are you afraid? Hey everyone, so what I'm really hoping is, once you start understanding just kind of how the various parts of our brain works, the biggest part I really want to kind of focus on is the limbic system. That's kind of that midbrain. The way I look at it and the way I've explained it in some of my other videos is, it's the watchtower. I learned that in a trauma book that I read, and it really resonated with me. I think of Lord of the Rings and Asgard, and not Asgard, Isengard, and how the eye is just watching. It's just looking for power, just looking to give information to Sauron. So the limbic system, now that's really important, is because working with the limbic system is really important, because that's how you're going to really understand is, am I processing my emotions, my memories, is my sexual desires, are they all in line? My, need to eat, are those functions starting to be impacted with the things that are going on? Or am I having issues with my perception of time, my perception of reality? Am I able to communicate my feelings? Is my language affected? Or am I having trouble even solving problems? And that's kind of later on, when you're in a more of a heightened state of fight or flight, and it becomes chronic. Why are all these important? The reason why I bring it up is to understand how our brains and our thoughts are just designed to work. Because if one aspect is off and you can understand that something is not functioning quite right, then you can kind of go into it and start diagnosing and figuring out what the hell happened. So that's essentially what this entire chapter is about. It's about learning how the mind works. It's learning how fear works. It's learning how the normal stress cycles work. It's learning how to combine that animalistic, the cognitive, and the executive functions of our brains, so that way we can then start kind of controlling. Now, I have a playlist that I call the ACE series that's all about unlocking and finding your true potential because maybe something has happened before. Now, this is about learning how to actually control and take some sort of security and sense of comfort back in what's happening. So the more we understand our minds and our brains and our thought processes and how we perceive the world in that stress cycle and how we can control it and not react to it, how that can all work together to help us be a better functioning human. So that's what this whole playlist is about. And I have other playlists that talks about just checking in with yourself, how to work on self-belief and work on actually finding self-confidence. That's not these. What this is just learning about the mind, how it works, and how we have so much more control. And also, we don't have control over the automatic responses of our mind and our bodies. So with that, let's talk some more. So the executive layer. Now, this is essentially the prefrontal cortex, the mind's eye, the third eye. So realistically, this is important. So if you're having situations where your self-regulation, your goal setting, your decision-making is just not quite functioning well. And that's why later on I'll talk about when you're in freeze and when you're in fawn, part of the fight or flight. And typically that's when that executive function starts to shut down because of the chronic stress. So for me, I'm using this as a very logical and practical way, because if some of this starts to emotionally make it where it's hard to focus, it's hard to understand and regulate because it is conflicting with what you understand, there could be some sort of cognitive dissonance or bias or something that is helping you show that there's a block that you need to understand and work through. So whether it's through with your therapist or counselor, your coach, whoever you're using to help you normalize what you're going through and also help you in your own journey, or even your friends, that executive function is really important, because I think understanding how, when we go through that stress cycle, it automatically goes through the automatic nervous system, and it goes through either the parasympathetic nervous system, or it's going to go through the sympathetic nervous system, which the sympathetic nervous system is where the fight or flight happens. And that's where all the, the hormones are released. While the other side, the parasympathetic system, is what calms us down once we get away from the danger. So someone like me who grew up with constant PTSD, like a constant PTSD and just a stressful situation my entire life, my parasympathetic nervous system, my safety aspect was never able to really turn on, because I was always in a situation where my sympathetic nervous system was always activated due to all the external stressors. And that's something I had to work through to realize that I was safe. And there could be other people who are just shut down, and they don't realize that, hey, that I'm shut down is because I've been programmed to just stay shut down, and I need to learn how to feel the adrenaline, feel the stress, and work through it. So this entire chapter just talks about all of these different information, so that way you can be more mindful. You can learn how to be more present in your mind. You can learn how to be intentional with your life. And so this entire playlist is designed to help you all find your own internal compass and find your own faith throughout this whole process. So welcome to this chapter. I'm Saul Matthew of Koos Key. If you haven't already, please subscribe. So thank you so much, and I look forward to helping you on your journey. And I hope the information and my experience can hopefully normalize yours and make you feel not so isolated, and you'll be able to hopefully create the best life for yourself. As life is short and life is long, but it's all perspective. So live the best life you can. And with that, Ayub Owen, may you be blessed with a long life. Thanks so much, and please subscribe. Hey everyone, again. Saul Matthew of Koos is Key. Really excited to have you here. This playlist is all about you. Realistically, a lot of the content here is a compilation of a lot of my experiences, a lot of information that I've found that has helped me. And my goal is to really help you understand maybe a little bit more of what's going on with yourself, normalize your experience, and hopefully take some of your own pain away. But I don't want to explain what you're going through. You have to make up your own decision. My goal is to really talk through just certain things that have been maybe going on, using my experience to really kind of explain, to help you understand and unlock what the hell is going on. So this specific playlist, it's all about understanding. Sometimes when we have pain, there's fear attached to it. So this is all about learning how to embrace the fear. I have a lot of content in this playlist. There's going to be content that talks about the mind, how it's programmed, how the fight or flight response can really control maybe our actions. How sometimes when it's chronic, how it can become freeze. How then over time we can fawn over people, and sometimes we fall in love with our abusers. But realistically, it's really to help you understand. So there's a lot of complex and heady information. So as you go through this playlist, maybe what it might do is it might spark something, and you might want to go to another playlist that talks about maybe checking in and understanding and asking yourself specific questions. Or there might be another playlist that's more about unlocking your potential and figuring out that, hey, there's something locked in me, but there's still a fire that I want to learn how to cultivate and really create a mindset of believing and knowing that I can. So there's a content for that as well. But this content is more about the cognitive triangle, and how sometimes we get stuck in a triangle of feelings, emotions, and sometimes our mind, our body, and our spirit is just stuck. So realistically, there's going to be times where you might not always feel comfortable in this journey. And that's normal. Change is a part of life. And sometimes when we get too comfortable, that's really when we're not able to grow and we're not challenging ourselves. That's when we find reasons and we give the fear and the future pain more power than maybe we should. Maybe I'm jumping ahead. So again, I'm Saul Matthew of Koos is Key. This playlist is all about helping us understand how just that rush of emotions, the fight-flight response, the cognitive triangle, learning how sometimes when it becomes anxiety and chronic, how does it impact us? But this is all about understanding fear, and sometimes how when we're stuck in a fear cycle, how it can really control our life opposed to us having control of our life. Don't you want to stop reacting to all the things that are happening and be able to say, no, I got this. I'm going to figure this out and maybe respond to life, And so instead of having to just maybe take the punches of what life and the universe might throw at you, you can actually counter it. You can defend yourself. You can turn defense into offense and maybe hopefully find some control back in your life. I really want that for all of you. So this playlist is all about learning just how our body is wired, learning how that sometimes we get excited and there's things on the outside that might make us feel something on the inside. And that intensity, depending on how we perceive it and our perspective, can really have an impact on ourselves. So this is just a lot of information to help you understand what is going on when you feel afraid. So again, I'm Koos Matthew of Koos Key. Please subscribe. Please check out some of the other content. And I'm looking forward to being with you on your journey. So thank you for coming to this channel. It's really grown over this last however long that we've been doing this, and it's going to continue to grow. So I can't wait to create more content to help you feel more excited, inspired, and know that you're not alone in this journey. So together, let's do this. Hey everyone. So with this playlist, this is all about helping you understand and hopefully not be so afraid. I'm going to use my experience, and I went through some really tough stuff, and I went through a period where I just felt overwhelmed by emotions and I wasn't able to heal. So I'm going to use anxiety and panic attacks and fear as the catalyst for you to maybe understand where you might be afraid, or you might be just not understanding why this sense of fear is really controlling a part of your life. And I have some content that you're gonna see that that talks about attachment theory, that talks about sometimes how maybe our feelings and how we were maybe made to feel safe at a young age wasn't quite met. And maybe it could be that. Maybe for you, it could be anything else. But for me, I think I wanted to have a situation and a medium that can really help all of you understand and be able to realize that this is normal and that you can work through it, and whatever your body is going through is something that I think over time you're able to actually desensitize and work through the fear, and it's something you can almost run towards. And I have other content that talks about our intuition, that talks about believing and having faith and having confidence to achieve your truest potential, or even unlocking your truest potential. But sometimes we believe that we're meant to be unhappy. We believe that we're meant for this misery. And I want to really have some content to help other people realize that you're not stuck. So fear, and sometimes being afraid of fear, being afraid of pain, and just losing momentum in life, it starts giving it more and more power. You end up being so stationary that it's just hard to get moving. But once you have inertia, once you have momentum, it's really hard for things in life to stop you. So my goal is, once you understand how sometimes fear and being afraid and all these other emotions that you might be going through, how it can be impacting your potential. Now that's what this chapter and this whole playlist is about. So if you go through it, you're going to find so much different content about the brain, about emotions, about ourselves. And I hope, as I explain my journey, I can help normalize your experience and make you believe that good things can come. So I'm Koos Matthew of Koos Key. Again, before we get to the next chapter and the next bit of the content, I hope you believe. Right now, you might not be able to have the confidence or believe that you're able to find a better day, but know that you can. And right now, you might not even know that you can, but maybe take my confidence for it. And let's go through a journey. So you're seeing me almost 9 or 10 months after I started this channel. And over time, it wasn't great, but it got better and better. And I found my voice. And sometimes that undeniable spirit that you have that doesn't let you give up is what's going to keep pushing you forward. And once you can learn how to break that cognitive triangle, you can break the fear, you can break the cycle that you've been through, everything's going to start getting better. But first, it's knowing that you have a little bit of control. And I hope one of the videos in here will have your aha moment, and you're going to be able to truly find your strength and take away the power of fear and let that become excitement. Because fear and excitement is only perspective. I'm going to go into that. And let's talk about how fear or excitement is really based on perspective and how our expectations of what is to come.